16 U.S. senators yesterday introduced a bill that would compel all national Olympic governing bodies, such as USA Gymnastics, to promptly report the charges of child sexual abuse. And one of that bill's co-sponsors, Florida Senator Marco Rubio, who now joins us from the U.S. Capitol. Welcome, sir. How did this get on your radar?
Well, obviously the news reports, and they're troubling. And when you read a report about something that was organized under federal law, governed under the Interstate Commerce Act that gives Congress jurisdiction over it, and you understand these practices that are occurring, it becomes deeply troubling when you have these associations, particularly USA Gymnastics, but some others, who had evidence and claims about these abuses and chose to investigate them internally instead of turning them over to local authorities. That's an unacceptable decision, and so I think this is the appropriate way forward.
They've got 16 sponsors on this bill. I don't have to tell you right now in Washington, you can't get Republicans and Democrats to agree on what time the sun came up in the morning. So the bipartisan nature here, what are the prospects of moving this forward realistically?
Well, I think they're very realistic, and I think it has to be made a priority. Obviously, there's a lot of other big issues that are competing for floor time and for voting time, but I can't imagine this would be something that would face any sort of organized resistance, and I really can't think of a single argument against moving forward on something like this. Look, you would prefer that it not be an issue, but when you now have numerous cases and instances in which you have an organization and organizations that have decided to try to deal with these matters internally rather than turn them over to law enforcement, which is what they should have done, I think that justifies further action on behalf of Congress.
Are hearings needed?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that there's going to be hearings, and they're important because there may be things we learn along the way that would require us to either tailor or add to these requirements. But the most important thing here is these cases, these allegations should have been immediately reported to law enforcement. They were not. We're going to make sure they are from now on.
What do you make of the note I just gave a few moments ago, peering through now these thousands of pages of documents released by a judge just last week, that 19 years ago, the USC was warned, ironically, by gymnastics, you need to do a better job on this. This goes back almost 20 years.
But this is obviously something you see often in sports, and I've been around it my whole life as an athlete in high school and college, now as a parent whose kids are involved in sports. There's an insular aspect of sports where you try to deal with things inside the team. You see that all the time. Keep it within the walls. Don't go out and talk to the press bad about your teammates or what's happening. And so some of that is already built into the system somehow. You see it in college athletics when programs are investigated and it involves law enforcement. They don't turn it over. But in this case, it goes way too far. These are criminal actions. These are criminal allegations. They should be immediately reported to law enforcement. There's no excuse not to do it. It's deeply troubling. And unfortunately, as we go through those depositions and those records, we may find additional cases that would trouble us even more.